Yeah, sorry, I didn't manage to. I forgot to switch record on for the Siyum.
Oh,
Too bad.
that's because you had a drink before. Okay.
Okay. So,
Okay. The four primary damages are
hold
the
on.
ball.
No. This is me. I do this one.
Oh, come on. Okay.
Okay. All right. So, introduction to Seder Nezikin. Bava Kamma, Bava Metzia, and Bava Basra are actually all one Masechta. It's all they're broken up into three, possibly for convenience sake. But it's all basically Maseches Nezikin. Is all one thing. It's all the laws of all civil laws. Ben Adam Lechavero. Okay, so starting off Aleph Arba Abbas Nezikin. So we have four basic forms of damages. So we're talking now about if one person damages another person, what are the four different categories that we have to look at to classify them? Hashor v'habor. Hashor is anything to do with an animal that's walking in its normal way. Okay, and so that's which we're going to see is distinct from eating. So that's the habor is by the way it's mentioned in this particular order probably because of mnemonics, because it's easy to remember shor, bor, mave, and hever. It's not necessarily the right logical order in terms of what's going to follow up. But a lot of the time the Mishnah is stated in that way, so that because people typically had to remember it before Rabbi Yehuda Anasi came along and encoded it. So hashor v'habor, bor being a stationary damage, as we'll see. A mave is the grazer, something that eats, and this is again talking typically about an animal. The hever is about a fire, which is an aish. Okay. So there's four basic damages. Now, what's actually left out of this lot is keren, which is sort of a subcategory of the animal of the shore, but it's actually not. I'm not sure which one of these it's actually going to fit into.
Keren is nezek shalem. I mean, chetzi nezek, right?
Yeah, right. So it's a different thing. Whereas everything else over here is typically nezek shalem. Okay. Lo hare hashor kahare amave. It says it's not the damages of an ox are not the same as we're trying to understand why do we have to teach four different forms, and because we have to learn different things, because an ox is different from mav'eh, which is the eating. Okay. Lo hare hamave kahare hashor. Okay. Why are they different? Because the shore is something that's when he's walking is always potentially causing damage. You can't have an animal that's going to not move around and it's big and heavy and it's going to cause damage. Whereas the mave is different because an animal doesn't necessarily eat when it's walking. It's a less common damage to have an animal eating something as opposed to an animal walking through something. Let's see what it says. So you couldn't learn one. You couldn't learn one from the other. Right. And the other direction is also because and in the other direction you couldn't learn a kal v'chomer because the shein, even though it's less common, it involves a benefit to the animal, because now the animal has eaten something, so now you have benefited from having the eating. Whereas an animal walking through something doesn't have any particular hana. Okay, so between those two, now both of these are about living animals. Now, fire is inanimate, so you couldn't learn one from the other either. And all of these three things are moving damages, which is a stationary damage. So you couldn't have learned any of those from the other. So we needed to learn all four of them in order to get all of our principles of damages. So because all of these, what's different about all these things is what separates them. What makes them common that we can learn onto all of them. Shedarkan hazik, that they are damages, that they can do damage. Ushmirasan alecha, and it is incumbent on the owner to guard them from doing damages. And if they did do damage, so then the mazik has to pay up for the damages that he caused, or that his object caused. He has to pay from the Meitav Haaretz, and if he doesn't have cash to pay for the damages, then the claimant can take his from the best of his land in order to pay for the damages.
Sure, there's quite a long section of notes on a dispute between Rav and Shmuel.
Yes. You want to share with us what you got in there?
It's quite long. Maybe you want to give a short description. It's quite long. It's a few pages.
Quite a few pages. Okay, so right, because Rav and Shmuel, it's in the introduction of the Kahati. Right, you call that? You prepared?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, according to Rav, the Mishnah is talking about all of the kinds of nezikin that are that are specified in the Torah, because shor, which is said in our Mishnah, includes all damages of the shor, including the keren, the shein, and the regel. And maveh, so what's maveh according to Rav, is an adam, a mazik, is a person who causes damage with his body, or with his gufo. Mamon Chavero. He damages with his own body something of his to his friend. But Shmuel comes and says that the Mishnah is talking about it's just talking about 4 types of nezik mamon, which muadim which are muadim from the beginning. They are you are always considered as a clear and present danger for these things. So shor means just regel, but shein. And shein, maveh and shein are also you're from the outset you are warned against them, okay? Because but when it comes to keren, it doesn't mention keren because keren is something that the animal is not. Animals are not by their nature aggressive. We assume, except for some exceptions which we will see later on. But in general, an animal is not considered muad for keren. And therefore, it's not listed among these 4 things. So when I first introduced the Mishnah, I was giving it according to Shmuel, which actually usually is the case when we have machlokes of Rav and Shmuel. The general principle is asay lecha Rav pnei lecha chaver. Right? Asay lecha Rav. When you're talking about asay v'lo tasay heter, we generally rule like Rav. When it comes to Knei lecha chaver, when you're talking about kinyanim and dinim of mamonos, then we typically rule like Shmuel.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Mishnah base. Kol shechavti b'shmiraso, hichsharti et nizko. So any time that I am chayav to be shomer, to guard over something from not causing a damage, hichsharti et nizko. Then I am also if I didn't guard it properly and it went out in damages, whoever's the one who's responsible for looking after the nezek and didn't do it, becomes chayav in the nezek. Okay, hichsharti b'miktas nizko. Okay, so let's say if Reuven came and dug a pit in the Rishus Harabim, which was only 9 tvachim deep, which we'll see is that's not enough to be considered a full mazik. And Shimon came along and said, hey, this pit's not deep enough, and dug an extra tefach. So he just did the last makeh patish on the bore, and then somebody else came and his animal fell into it and died. Okay, now who's chayav? Is it Shimon or Reuven? The answer is Shimon, because Shimon came and finished off the job. He made it into something that was damaging. Reuven left something that wasn't fully damaging. Shimon was the makeh patish, so he is 100% liable. Not just like 50. So he can't say, well, Reuven dug 90% of this pit. I just did the last 10%. No, he's chayav in the whole thing. Now this is talking about property that does not have me'ilah on it. In other words, it's not hekdesh. This is talking about personal property, not property of the Mikdash. Nechasim shel b'nei bris, and specifically talking about Jewish property, because we have. Just give me a second. Okay, nechasim hamayuchadim, and this is nechasim that have an owner, right? So you don't. So there are no damages for an animal that is hefker. And why would you think that there might be? Let's conjure up a case where there was a wild animal that came and did damage to a Jew's animal, and then afterwards somebody else grabbed the wild animal and tamed it and said, I could use this one, and now the Jew wants to come and sue him. I say your animal did damage, but did damage when it was hefker, so therefore he's pater from it. Okay, Ubekol makom. And it doesn't matter where this happens, except if it happens in the damager's property. So, for example, if Reuven's shore wanders onto Shimon's property and Shimon's shore comes and attacks Reuven's shore, then Reuven can turn to Shimon, and then Shimon can turn to Reuven and say, "What was your shore doing on my property? It had no right, and therefore he will be patur from the attack." Or if they have joint property, where they're shutafim in a certain property, and each one has the right to use the land. Therefore, if it's a shared, if it's shared, and he damages b'shein of a regel, then he's parted from paying because the animal has the right to be there. And when something does do damage, not an animal, so it's we repeat this over here. This is actually mentioned already in the first Mishnah. Okay, so why does it come and tell us this? It's telling us because we also want to include Keren. The first, according to Shmuel, as we were saying, the first Mishnah didn't mention Keren. And we might have thought that okay, because a Keren is a lesser class of damages, and therefore you don't have the right to take the best of the land. And we're saying again over here, even Keren, which we've been mentioning obliquely in some of these other cases in the Mishnah, even Keren also has to be paid for the Meitav Haaretz with the best land. Okay, so that's our three Mishnayos of the day. Was the last one from Kiddushin and the first two of Bava Kamma. Okay, so Pesach just tomorrow. We're kind of on our own to learn these. We still have. By the way, I've got a website where we've got the daily schedule of all of the Mishnayos, which I'll send to you. I'll just quickly show you. Yeah.
I don't know what happened to mine again. The same thing happened as before.
What happened to what?
The whole schedule is missing.
Oh.
I don't know what happened again. The same thing.
Here it is. Okay, so basically there's this website over here where you've got the list of all of the Mishnahs that are doing with the new ones in green. Okay, so
you're going to send it out. You're going to do the recording anyway, so I should be able to get it.
Okay.
I don't have it. There's nothing.
What? Sorry. What are you saying you don't have?
I don't have the schedule again. I don't have the schedule. All the recordings the same thing happened the other day. Remember?
Oh, you mean you're talking about in the WhatsApp group?
Yeah, the WhatsApp group. I don't know why.
Okay, you'll see it when I send the recording.
Right.
Okay. So Chazara, we're at the end of we're in Kiddushin Perek Daled Yud Aleph.
Okay. Rabbi Yehuda says a bachelor may not herd cattle, and two bachelors.
Hold on. No, that's we want to go to Yud Aleph.
You said Yud Dalet. You said Yud Dalet.
Yud Dalet I did at the beginning of the session today. That was the Siyum.
Right. So we're going to
Yud Aleph.
Yud Aleph. Okay. I don't have it here. There's no second volume for this. Okay. If one says, I married a woman overseas, this is she and these are her children, he must bring proof concerning the woman, but he not need bring proof concerning the children. If he says she died and these are her children, he must bring proof concerning the woman and her children. Okay, we did this yesterday, Shaul.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's why we're doing Chazara today.
I know. A woman may not be alone with two women, but one woman may be alone with two men. Reb Shimon says even one man may be alone with two women when his wife is with him, and he may sleep with them in an inn because his wife watches him. A man may be alone with his mother or with his daughter, and he may sleep with them with bodily contact. If they grew up and she sleeps in her clothes and he sleeps in his clothes. A bachelor may not accustom himself to be among the teachers, and a woman may not accustom herself to be among the teachers. If Eliezer says, also one whose wife is not living with him may not accustom himself to be among the teachers.
Okay, that's it
Okay.
for there. Okay, so then we go back to Chazara on what we learned last week.
Ah, wow.
Okay, so that's Perik Gimel, Mishnah Gimel.
Very good. Mishnah, one Mishnah. So how do
Three
you-
of them.
Oh, I see.
Gittin.
No, Kiddushin, Gimel Gimel.
Lucian, I'm sorry. Give me those numbers. So I took the tissue out.
Gimel Gimel.
Okay. If he said on condition that I have a base core of land, she is betrothed, provided he has it. On condition that I have it in a specific place. If he has it in that place, she's betrothed. If not, she is not betrothed. On condition that I will show you a base core of land, she is betrothed, provided he will show it to her. If he showed it her in a valley, she's not betrothed.
What if he's just playing with words and saying, "I'll show you a base core," she's expecting that he actually owns it, not that it's just Hefker land somewhere.
Rav Meir says any condition which is not like the condition of the children of God and the children of Reuven is not a condition as it is says, and Moses said to them, if the children of God and the children of Reuven will cross, and it is written, but if he will not cross zealously. But Kanina ben Gamil says it was necessary for the matter to be stated because otherwise it is implicit that even in the land of Canaan they shall not inherit.
Right, and if you recall there, what we said, the halacha follows follows Rabbi Meir with a Tanai that begins with im. Okay, that if they will do us, then right, then you've got it.
Right.
But if you say a Tanai in the Almanas, then you don't need to do a reverse condition.
If one betrothed a woman and said, I thought that she is the daughter of a Kohen, and lo, she is the daughter of a Levi, or the daughter of a Levi, and lo, she is the daughter of a Kohen, a poor woman, and lo, she is a rich woman, and lo, she is a poor woman, she is betrothed because she did not deceive him. Likewise, if one says to another, if your wife bears a female, she is betrothed to me. She is not betrothed. If the other's wife was pregnant and her fetus was discernible, his words are effective, and if she bore a female, she is betrothed. Yeah.
Okay. Next up is Gittin base.
3 Mishnahs more?
3 Mishnahs. Yeah, we do three in every section
Okay.
because every day we're doing 3 new ones, so we're doing the Chazaras at the same pace as the.
Okay.
If it was written by day and signed by day, or written by night and signed by night, or written by night and signed by day, it's valid. If it was written by day and signed by night, it's void. Reb Shimon says, however, validates it. For Reb Shimon used to say, all documents which were written by day and signed by night are void except for Gittin. We write it with anything with ink, with orpiment, and with red pigment, with gum, with ferrous sulfate, or with anything which is lasting. We do not write it with liquids, nor with fruit juice, nor with anything which is not lasting. We write it upon anything on a leaf of an olive tree, on the horn of a cow, and he gives her the cow, or the hand of a slave, and he gives her the slave. The Rossi the Gallian says, we do not write it on a living creature, nor on food. We do not write on something attached to the ground. If he wrote it on something attached and then detached it, completed it, and gave it to her, it's valid. Rabbi Yehuda invalidates it unless its writing completion are done when it is detached. Rabbi Yehuda ben Becerra says we do not write it on paper which has been erased, nor with unfinished parchment, because they can be forged. And the Kamma, however, validate these.
Okay, done. All right, next up is Kasubos Zion Tes.
As for a man upon whom bodily defects came about, he is not coerced to divorce his wife. Said Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, when does this apply? In the case of a minor defects, but in the case of major defects, he is coerced to divorce. And these are the ones who are coerced to divorce: a leper, one afflicted with an offensive nasal smell, one who gathers, one who mines copper, and a tanner, whether they had them before they were married or they came after they were married. Concerning all of them, Reb Meir said, even if he had stipulated with her, she can say, I thought I would be able to endure it, but now I cannot endure it. The Kamma, however, say that he must endure it against her will, except a leper, because she causes his flesh to decay. It once happened in Sidon that a tanner died, and his brother, who was also a tanner, the sages say, she can say, your brother I could endure, but you I cannot. A woman to whom property fell before she was betrothed, Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree that she may sell it or give it away, and the act is valid. If it fell to her after she was betrothed, Beis Shammai says she may sell it. Beis Hillel, however, says she may not sell it, and they both agree that if she sold it or gave it away, and the act is valid. Said Reb Yehuda. They argued before Rabbi Gamliel since he gains permission of possession of the women, should he not gain possession of the property? He replied to them, we are ashamed of the new property, and you wish to impose upon us the old property. If it fell to her after she was married, both agree that if she sold it or gave it away, the husband takes it away from the buyers. If it fell to her before she was married and she subsequently married, Rabbi Gamliel says if she sold it or gave it away, the act is valid. Reb Chanina ben Akavia says they argued before Rabbi Gamliel, since he gains possession of the woman, should he not gain possession of the property? He replied to them, we are ashamed of the new property, and you wish to impose upon us the old property.
In both of these cases, we say we don't like to allow people to kind of gazump a deal. If she sold some property to somebody else, and they bought it, we don't want it to be able to revoke that deal, because then we like to have a free marketplace where people can make deals and to be confident that the deal is standing, and not they're going to have to be worried that somebody else is going to come and gazump them. So sometimes the halacha says, okay, what can we do? We have to do it because you sold it without rishus, but we don't like doing it. And now, so Rabbi Gamliel is saying to the students, like, don't look for cases where we can revoke deals. Just, it's enough. What we've got. Okay, we're an Erev in Gimel Tes, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Reb Dosa ben Harkonnen says, he who leads the prayers on Yom Tov of Rosh Hashanah says, fortify us, O Hashem, our God, on this Rosh Chodesh, whether it is today or whether it will be tomorrow. On the morrow, he says, whether it is today or whether it was yesterday, but the Kamma did not agree with him.
Right. Good thing to learn now. Okay.
One who was taken out by Gentiles or by an evil spirit has only 4 cubits. If they brought him back, it is as if they never left. If they took him to another town, or if they put him in a fold or in a corral, Reb Gamliel and Reb Elazar Azariah says he may traverse its entirety. But Yeshua and Rabbi Akiva say he only has 4 hours. It won't happen that they arrive from
Brindisi.
Pardisi,
That's Brindisi in Italy.
went out to sea. Reb Gamliel and Reb Elazar ben Azariah traveled this entirety. Reb Yeshua ben Akiva did not move out of 4 hours because they wished to be strict with themselves. Once they did not enter the harbor and night had fallen, they asked Rabbi Gamliel, may we disembark? And he answered them and said, you are permitted, for I have been observing, and we were within the Techum before dark.
We just made a siyum.
Was it a siyum?
Yeah.
Who made you?
Yeah.
It's your siyum? What were you saying?
Seder Nashim, Mishna. Okay, next up we're on Mikvahs Vav Gimel.
Vav Gimel. If there are 3 mikvos, one containing 20 sa'ah of rainwater, and another also containing 20 sa'ah of rainwater, and the other containing 20 sa'ah of drawn water, and one of drawn water is at its side, if 3 persons went down and immersed themselves therein, and the waters became mingled, the mikvahs are tahor, and those that immerse themselves therein are tahor. If one of the drawn waters was in the middle, and 3 persons went down and immersed themselves therein, and the waters became mingled, the mikvahs as if they were, and those that immerse themselves are as they were.
Right. So the word because the Mayim She'ovin doesn't get counted, so it doesn't, so it's not matar them. But if you've got two, the idea over here is that because the men went in and they pushed the water levels up, so the two that had 20 sa'at together formed a mikveh, and they were mavatel the water on the side that was Mayim She'ovin.
Uh,
But if it's in the middle, if the Mayim She'ovin is in the middle, then that doesn't work.
Combined.
Yeah.
If a sponge or bucket contained 3 lugim of water and fell into a mikveh, it does not disqualify it because it was all they said was 3 lugim fell in.
But not the sponge. Okay. Yeah.
If a chest or box was in the sea, one may not immerse anything in it unless it has a hole the size of a water skin tube. Rabbi Yehuda says, in the case of a larger vessel, 4 tefakim, in the case of a small vessel, the greater part. If it was a sack or a basket, one may immerse things in it. However, it is because its water is mingled. If they were placed under a pipe, and they do not disqualify a mikveh, and one may even immerse them and lift them out of the usual way.
Okay. And finally, so Chulin Dalet Dalet.
If an animal is in its difficult labor and the fetus thrusts forth its foreleg and one cut it off, and afterwards he slaughtered its mother, the flesh is tahor. If he slaughtered it after mother and afterwards he cut it off, the flesh is regarded as having touched the nevela. These are the words of Reb Meir. But the comments say it is regarded as having touched the slaughtered treifa. Just as we find in the case of a treifa that its slaughtering renders it tahor, so too should the slaughtering of the animal render the limb tahor. Replied Reb Meir, not so. If the shkita of a treifa renders a tahor, a thing which is its own body, a thing which is its own body, should also render the limb tahor. A thing which is not its own body. From where do we learn the slaughtering of a treifa renders a tahor? The non-kosher animal is prohibited to be eaten. A treifa is also prohibited to be eaten. Just as a non-kosher animal cannot be rendered tahor by its slaughtering, so should a treifa not be rendered tahor by its slaughtering. Not so. If this can be said of a non-kosher animal which never had a time of fitness, can the same be said of a treifa which had a time of fitness? Take back what you brought. If it was treifa, how do we know it? Not so. This can be said of a non-kosher animal whose entire species has no shkita, can the same be said of a treifa whose species has shkita? An 8-month live birth, its slaughtering does not render it tahor because there is no slaughtering in its kind. If one slaughters an animal and finds it in an 8-month fetus alive or dead, and a dead 9-month fetus tears it open and takes out its blood,
then he just has to tear it out and pull out its blood. All he has to make sure is not to eat the blood because the fetus was shechted with its mother, so it doesn't need its own shechita.
If he finds a 9-month-old live fetus, it requires shechita, and it's subject to the prohibition of it and its offspring. These are the words of Reb Meir. But the comments say the slaughtering of its mother renders it permissible. Reb Shimon Zatzari says even if it is 8 years old and it's plowing in the field, the slaughter of its mother renders it permissible. If he tore her open and he found in a 9-month live fetus, it requires shkita because the mother was not slaughtered. If the hind legs of an animal were severed below the joint, it is fit. Above the joint, it is unfit. And likewise, if the meating of the sinews were removed, if the bone was broken or the greater part of the flesh remains, its slaughtering renders it tahor. Otherwise, the slaughtering does not render it tahor. Okay. We're going on to continue with cooling. Okay.